Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Stay in Your Lane. I'm your host, John Maley, brought to you today by Triple T Transport. Got Andy Tomka, VP of Product with Movement. It's your first time with us, Andy. Thank you for making time for us. We appreciate it, and we are glad to have you. Also with Andy is, I would say, someone's got some tenure with us, Glenn Koepke. So, Glenn, you are now at Vector, responsible for customer growth. That's a good thing. Welcome. Welcome back. So, today I want to talk about another subject you guys both, I think, are all over it on. Demystifying AI for logistics. What's hype? What's reality? I think we all see areas that we think it could bring some value. If not, you probably aren't looking very closely. But I think having you two gentlemen on here, it's a great place to start. Andy, I'm going to let you have the floor first. What's your perspective?
Oh, well, thanks for having me this afternoon, John. I'm glad to be joining your cohort, and I hope to one day be as tenured as Glenn is. On the topic of AI, it's a hot topic. How it's going to be added into business at a macro view. You see a lot of economists starting to write about the subject and what it can bring to the greater U.S. and world economy. And the opportunity of AI is that it should allow for workers to become more efficient at their job. I would say that when it comes to focusing in on the logistics industry, we should be kind of asking ourselves, is the AI a net add? Does it make that rep operate more efficiently? Like, say you have a junior rep, does that AI solution make that junior rep look like a 3-year rep or a 4-year rep? Does that AI solution make a 4-year rep look like an 8-year rep? So there's a general ambition from anybody that's an adopter to have that kind of goal. But I think for the people in the industry, they should be pretty critical, at least have a critical eye on that AI solution, in the sense that is it a problem in search of a solution, or is it a true solution? Does it help you quote your customers faster? Does it help you match your capacity faster? Does it anticipate where capacity is going to be? How is that tool really kind of being this catalyst within your organization to accelerate things is a critical question I think this audience should be asking of AI.
Yeah, that's a lot, Andy. Glenn, fire out here, Glenn. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, I think so. I've been in logistics for 23 years now, maybe a little bit of change there. And, I think back to probably the last 10 years, maybe 15, it's always like this buzzword soup, right? Like I remember back in the day, big data was going to solve, world hunger and world peace and all the shipper problems and carrier problems. And then it moved to optimization was a buzzword, then visibility. And I do think there's some legs here. So here's my kind of challenge to the audience that's listening is if you have not engaged with ChatGPT for your own personal edification, here's the task. Make up some trip and type into ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm going to go on a road trip with these types of people in my family or friends. Here's what I want to see. Here's the stuff I like, and see what it comes back with. And it's pretty darn cool. So, as someone that's been around probably too long in the industry to see a lot of these hypes and fads that all had the same promises just fizzle out, there is legs to components of AI, right? So if you think of like broader AI, there's a lot of subsegments in it that often get either confused or there's a lack of clarity. So you'll hear more things like large language models or LLM, right? These are text trained type things that can really help emulate responses. And if you really want to get crazy, let's say you're talking to a shipper and you're going to write a proposal, tell ChatGPT, here's my solution, and have it prescribe 3 things for me as a customer. And it's pretty wild that an LLM can start to generate stuff that's pretty close. Like we're talking 70 to 80% good, that for a human, like if I don't have to go right from scratch and I can take a head start 3/4 of the way, that's pretty darn cool. So you'll hear, a lot of terms out there like generative AI, large language models, AI versus machine learning. My take on this is there are components that will absolutely stay. And the things that are going to stay and stick and we're going to celebrate here is a lot of content generation is number one, right? So when you think of knowledge-based articles, when you think of proposals, when you think of reviews, there's a lot of stuff that you can put in with a matter of seconds, and it will fast track hours, if not days of work, is number one. Two is, like for software companies, you think of Andy's background, my background. If you're a 3PL, if you're a shipper, everyone has documentation that they need. It either lives in like a Microsoft Drive, a Google Drive, 100 different people drive, and maybe they advanced with like technology like ServiceNow or some KB articles. What generative AI can help with is really augmenting a lot of these knowledge-based articles that historically quickly get out of date. They worked because you were onboarding a new person or customer, and then it just collected dust. So, there are some like dirty secrets of the industry that people don't touch. And this is one that I do think AI will significantly help with. The other one is just global disruptions, right? We live in this world where there's always something, right? I mean, God forbid you look at what happened in Baltimore recently, and the lives lost and the impact to the import-export supply chain on the East Coast. And where AI can help is to find the needles in the haystack, right? When you think of the traditional broker desk or the shipper, it is heavily reliant on calling and playing the whole phone a friend game. And really these Gen AI tools and chatbots can really find those needles a heck of a lot quicker than what we could do on a cell phone or an email. So, a lot there, but if I were to summarize it in a couple things, is try it out as a human being first, if you haven't, right? Plan your fictitious trip or your real trip. You're going to be surprised. And then take a customer proposal or supplier proposal or a 10K or annual report, take the extract there, pump it in there, and have it translate for you. And I think you'll be enamored. So really, the number one thing that's going to stick is context generation, but there's likely more to come too.
Wow.
Another way to just summarize this, I think, is treat these AI tools as your first draft. Like that's often the hardest thing in our everyday lives is just getting started on something, just getting started on a project, right, John? You want to just get started on rebuilding a car. Well, the effort to do that, to like get yourself motivated, can often be a challenge. These AI tools provide us as everyday users a shortcut to like just get started.
It gets the ball rolling, gives you an outline or a framework.
Yes. Is it 100%? Should you be worried that it's 100% right? No, it's not going to be 100% right. And it's going to read really kind of like very dry, but it's going to be, 75% of the way there. And then if you can, that's over 50%. So you
sprinkle
just
some of your own sauce in there and you got something good.
Right.
Okay.
The younger people that are entering in this industry are very familiar with it, and they are already starting to use it in the business world without being prompted to use it either. So that's another thing that the listeners should expect is if you hire somebody straight out of college, they are familiar with it today. No training needed.
But you bring up some good points. I think there's a balance of the tribal wisdom and the technology, and bringing the two together for that efficient value for an organization and getting everyone's buy-in, I think is the key to that sweet spot for success. Now, you guys have seen Thomas Kern on here at times. He's an attorney, transportation attorney, and I asked him, are you using AI? right? Because he's not in our industry as a third party or a broker or a carrier or a software company. I want to know, are the attorneys taking advantage of this for contract writing, contract reviewing, and everything else? And he shared with me that actually, no. The people that have relied on that have really gotten in trouble because it's not the 100% that you would want it to be, and it's not going to replace a human in that regard. So it might be 70% right, but from a contract perspective, that's not enough. So it's what's the real, where's that balance, where's that percentage of where it works. And I think we're talking about, I think to Glenn, you probably know this as well as anyone also. You can only do it and it be successful with everybody's buy-in and everybody understanding and seeing the value in it.
Yeah, I do think there's ways, behind the scenes. You think of like scenario testing when you're doing system building and things like that. There's ways through these models to train them. My take, you made a comment, John, that I think was fitting, which it's like you still need a human at the end of the day. It's no different than, think back when the whole digital broker term was coined, right? Like, hey, are the legacy brokers still going to exist, right? All these brokers are going to go out of business, and you fast forward and you look at what happened at Convoy, right? It's like there's the logistics industry is unfortunately very susceptible to common marketing schemes and belief that what they read on a piece of paper is going to hold true at a macro scale. And I think the way to think of AI and Gen AI and large language models is taking you from 0 to 60 to 70% in a very quick way, but human beings still have to take it from 60 to 100%. Right? Even think of Andy's business on the TMS side. When you think of like historical routing guides, right? Routing guides used to be a Rolodex where you pick up the phone and call. Then it was digitized.
Still got it. Still holding on to it. Don't know why. Yep. Can't let go of it. But I have a Rolodex.
Yeah, it'll be worth something. We'll see it on eBay here at some point in life.
I probably have to knock an inch of dust off of it, but you're all over it, Glenn. I was that guy. You're looking at me. I'm the dinosaur. I was just young.
That too. I was the optimizer. I used to manually swap items from load to load, and then all of a sudden, well, hey, the system can do that for me. And it's like, well, gosh, all right, now I can figure this out. Now I can go negotiate with other providers. I can talk to customers more. And ultimately, I have this phrase, it's called proof of one, right? When you think of why all these hypes turn into fads is no one even thinks of a proof of one, right? We get all excited for these terms. We look cool. We look sexy to our boss or our peers, but then we never really think about the person at the end user level. And so, my challenge to the listeners is figure out if you have a proof of one to go after. If so, embrace it with the end user, see where it works, see where it doesn't, and just very common sense approach, try it out. And I think this is where we are getting smarter and smarter in logistics. 10 years ago, log tech didn't really exist. Like you had technology companies, but it wasn't SaaS. You didn't have these microservices or startups constantly evolving. And so I do think our industry has evolved to at least be wise enough to say, hey, based on what I read on the website, maybe I should think about how it correlates to me versus what these other companies are marketing.
Continue watching on the next episode of the Stay in Your Lane podcast.